It's extremely important to us. And our culture here is really fun. It's kind of like a combination of maybe Google and Apple, but then you add in the music part. Me being a DJ allows us to have really cool parties, and I DJ for all the employees at least once a week throughout the company.
So the CEO and founder is a DJ. Hey there, Lead the Team Nation, and welcome back to another great episode. Today I have for you Aaron Nursey, who is the founder and CEO of a 26-year-old company called Direct Components. Now, they've experienced exponential growth and recently became the Tampa Bay Business Journal's #1 ranked fastest growing company in the Fast 50, and they're also listed in the Inc. 5000. And additionally, he's founder and chairman of the board for the Nursey Foundation that aids underserved communities, and also DJ chip broker, which we're going to get into in just a minute. Now, if you're not familiar with Direct Components, this is a world that you need to be familiar with. They are the direct source for quality and really hard to find components. And since their inception back in 1998, they've built an extensive global network of approved and trusted suppliers, and they help people find, businesses find, and procure obsolete, hard to find parts. And this is a whole nother world as the world of technology continues to accelerate. There's a big need for this, and this is something that I think we all need to have on our radars. Aaron, welcome to Lead the Team.
Thanks, Ben. Good to be here.
So what do you think would surprise people about the world of direct components?
Well, I think a lot of people don't know how special our culture is. We have a set of core values that we live by. It's an acronym for direct, dependable, integrity, respect, excellence, commitment, and teamwork. These are not just core values that we put on our website just to check a box. They're extremely important to us in the way that we conduct business, both internally and externally, the way we hire, the way we promote. Everything we do is based on these 6 pillars, and it's extremely important to us. And our culture here is really fun. It's kind of like a combination of maybe Google and Apple, but then you add in the music part. Me being a DJ chip broker, allows us to have really cool parties, and I DJ for all the employees at least once a week throughout the company. So,
well, that is surprising. So the CEO and founder is a DJ. Now, what do you do? Okay, people love the music. You're playing their style of music. They like it. They're happy that they're working and that their CEO is basically crafting the soundtrack to their workday. But what do you do when people are like, you know what, that's not my style of music. I want to hear X. I want to hear something totally different.
Well, what I try to do is I play popular music remixes. So I'm playing music that people remember from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s with a twist. And I also will change the genre up from time to time. So I'm not just playing the same thing over and over. A lot of top 50, top 100 from different decades. So I think there's something that everyone will enjoy. So even if they don't like the current song playing, they know pretty soon there's going to be one coming along that they will enjoy. So
you're being very inclusive of all music genres, or
yes,
many music genres, and try to hit everybody's favorites.
Right.
Oh, that's so good. Now, do you notice a change in mood or performance based on the music you're playing for your team, your employees?
I think it's just become the norm now. I think that most people here are generally in a good mood. They're happy to be here. It's very upbeat. We're always playing music, whether it's me actually controlling and playing the, setting the vibe and playing the music that I want to play. But yeah, I think when they see that I jump on and I'm, hands on and making this music and making these mixes, that it does seem to get everybody a little more pumped up, I guess you could say.
We'll keep going, Aaron, for this. So this world of components, to a lot of people, they're like, what? They've been around for almost 3 decades, and they've made a huge thriving business around components. How in the world is that possible?
Right. So when I try to describe what we do, I tell people, and at the end they go, oh, okay, so you can get me a deal on a sound card. And I say, no, that's not what we do. So it takes a long time for me to explain exactly what we do, but just to try to shorten it down. So we go out and we locate parts that go into circuit boards for manufacturers that build circuit boards. And this could be Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Raytheon, massive companies that build circuit boards, can't get everything they need to go on the board. So they say, hey, can you go find these parts for us? Then we go out in the open market and we locate the part for them, and we'll buy it from somebody else that has surplus that wants to get rid of it. And then we're in the middle brokering the deal. Other times we'll buy people's excess inventory. They got a bunch of stuff in the back of the warehouse and they say, I got to get rid of all this stuff. No problem. We'll buy it, put it in our stock. And then later on down the road, when somebody needs it, they come to us to buy it.
I understood that. I thought you explained it well in a short amount of time. Y'all, this is a niche that's important. And I think about, there are a lot of things for us to take from that, right? One is when you find a need that's underserved, it might be a great business opportunity, right? And you can build something around that. What was there a moment when you're like, wait a minute, 28 years ago, I can build a thriving empire around this problem, or what was it?
So I met a gentleman back in the 90s, and he was telling me about this business that he was working for that would go out and buy these parts for these companies all around the world. And it just seemed extremely interesting. And I knew how to sell and he knew how to purchase these parts. So we came together and started the company in 1998. And I knew nothing about this before. And a lot of people don't know anything about this unless they've been in this industry. It's kind of like this, one of these things that happens all the time. And then when you hear about it, you're like, well, that makes sense, but why have I never heard of this? But it's not something that gets published on, you don't ever see any commercials on TV for it. There's not a lot of Facebook posts and ads and things like that for it. So I don't think people really realize this is what's happening. I think they just think that these boards just get manufactured in a facility and get put into a device and it's all clean and easy and nice and smooth, but it's not. There's a lot of problems when it comes to supply chain for electronic components, especially the past few years with COVID. That really shut down a lot of the manufacturers and made it difficult for them to locate these parts. But we came in and I feel like we saved the day for a lot of these people.
Well, congratulations. And ultimately, you want to be a business that provides value to your customers, value beyond what you're charging. And obviously you're delivering on that in a massive way. And it's just so cool that probably 90% of people listening to this have never thought of this. And it's so important that we recognize, these key organizations providing value in the supply chain. Now, I want to dig into this because in our research, came across a couple of videos and articles that you came from actually pretty humble beginnings. What can you share with us from that? And specifically, how has that shaped your leadership perspective today?
Sure. So I was born and raised in St. Petersburg, Florida. My dad passed away at a young age, so it was just my mom and I. And I knew that at a very young age, if I wanted to have a lot of nice things in life, that I was going to need to find a way to support that. So at the young age of 10 years old, I used to walk around my neighborhood and I would knock on people's doors and I'd ask them if I could catch lizards in their backyard. So I'd go in the backyard and I would catch these little lizards that crawl around on the trees. I know some of your listeners may not really recognize that.
They change colors?
Some do. Most of them are just black, but yeah, there's little, I would catch a bunch of them and I'd take them to a pet store and I would sell them and they'd pay 10 cents a piece for them. So this became my business in like mid 80s of going around, finding these lizards and selling them to the pet store. So at only 10 cents a piece, you got to catch a lot of these things to buy a pair of Air Jordans. So I asked the owner there, is there anything else that I could sell you that would be more valuable? And he said, you know how to catch turtles. And I said, no, but I'll figure it out. So I went to the grocery store. I bought a chicken neck. I tied a piece of string to it and I threw it out into a pond. I slowly pulled this string in and I had a net sitting down at the base of the pond. And as soon as the turtle got over the net, I lifted it up and I rode up to the pet store and he goes, yeah, I'll give you $5 for that one. Okay. So I've moved up in the world now. So now I'm out catching turtles and selling those to the pet store. So that's just where I began. There was a lot from there between then and when I started Rec Components about mowing lawns and having contracts for snowbirds and stuff at only 12 years old. So a lot of entrepreneurial things that just seemed very natural and normal to me. But looking back now, I guess not everybody was doing that, but I thought everybody was.
So rewinding it, you felt early on back in your lizard days, like, hey, I needed to contribute to the family in some way.
Absolutely.
I needed to financially do that. And
Absolutely.
So like, if you didn't have that feeling, you might have still been that entrepreneur down the road, but because you felt like, hey, I need to figure out a way to make money, you were able to channel that at a really young age.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was very exciting to me to know that I could just walk into somebody's backyard and catch a lizard and get money for it. I don't know, it must have hit some sort of good nerve that made me feel, okay, well, I want to do more of this, and I want to do this in a bigger way. So
Yeah. And to make the obvious connection here for the listeners, you're still catching lizards today. They're
yeah,
just components
they're a little
around
harder
the
to catch
world.
now. Yeah, these are hard to catch lizards. So yeah,
These are
long,
hard to catch
long lead
lizards on the other
time.
side of the world.
Yeah,
And you're bringing them to the pet store.
yep, that's it. Still doing it.
Wow, man. What a cool story. And so I'm curious now, like you have children, right? And are you thinking about fostering this mindset in them? Or I mean, how do you think about instilling sort of these entrepreneurial ideas, or are you just kind of letting it go and let them find their own
Sure.
music to listen to?
So my daughter's 21, almost 22. My son is 17, almost 18. And at a young age, I've told them stories about how I grew up, about, learning the value of a dollar, about hard work, about resiliency, what it takes to be, successful financially, but not just financially, with families more important than money. So I tried to instill these values into my children at a young age, and I would like them to be able to carve their own path. So if their path leads back to this industry, or if they want to go catch lizards for a living, that's okay too. But I want them to be able to pick their own path. So
So
my son's a baseball player, so he's hoping
Okay.
to go to the pros one day. And my daughter does video editing and makes really cool like videos and very artistic. So different, boy and a girl and different age groups, but it's just fantastic to watch the growth in them.
So digging back into your business side here, and what do you do as a leader when you yourself have doubts or you notice your team losing steam or motivation? Although I do know that you probably changed the music that you're playing inside the
That's it. That's solved everything right there. Yeah, just put on a cool tune and everything goes away. So I'll tell you a quick story. There was a chip crisis for the past couple of years, and then a lot of these customers were overstocked on parts. So our sales team has been having a lot of difficulty with getting opportunity to sell more parts to these customers because they have so much stock right now. So business has taken a downturn. So it's a lot more work to be able to, actually sell than it was a few years ago. So our leadership team, we sat one day, we do a meeting every week. We would do what's called a level 10. I don't know if you're familiar with that. It's a meeting that we do each week based on a program called Traction. And I put forth a issue that was just, I want to discuss business. And I think everyone felt like, oh no, this is the time when he's going to be, maybe upset about how things are going, or I think they just had a feeling of like, this is not going to be good. So what I had done is I prepared a speech and I gave them this speech saying, let's remember where we came from. Let's remember where we're at, where we're going. Let's not lose sight. You guys are all amazing. This is the team that we're moving forward with, and I'm not changing that. I believe in all of you. And I just really made them feel that I value them, I care about them, and I really want, and I know this thing will work. We're just going through a little bit of a blip right now, and that's going to turn around. So I felt like it seemed like a few of them may even teared up a little bit. I think they were just kind of blown away that, instead of it being, being upset about the business, I recognize the fact that it's just a downturn in the industry and it will bounce back. So that's just the way that I decide to approach that. And that's usually how I'll approach these things. I'm not looking to, scold anyone or berate anyone. I want to, raise everybody up. And, I think that's part of good leadership.
Yeah, it sure is. And I love that approach because you're also able to differentiate what the external factors are versus the internal. And it's tempting when things aren't going right in the market. We're like, well, I can't do a lot about that. So I want to get on my team and tell them to work harder and whatnot. But there's a lot of power in having an empathetic response and knowing and trusting that, hey, I've built the right team. I've built the right company. I still believe in the mission, and conveying that can be a huge motivation for them.
Absolutely.
And keep them going. You're also a big advocate for being present.
Yes.
And it's a little bit ironic because you're in the world of technology and components, which a lot of those things are based on social media's technology distracting us and whatnot. How do you think about it as a leader?
I really don't believe that AI is ever going to replace HI, which I call human intelligence. I feel like our customers still want someone to answer the phone, to be empathetic, to walk them through a situation, to understand what it is that they're going through. And I don't feel like a robot can do that. So I feel like being present in the moment and having one-on-one meetings with our customers and understanding what they're really facing as far as their challenges and how we can solve those problems for them. Also, I feel like 98% of our employees, we have 2 remote employees. The other 50 plus are all in the office here in Tampa. So I can walk out right now and have a conversation with someone. They can come in my office and we can talk about stuff. Sometimes when you have a whole force of people that are all remote, they kind of get forgotten about, and they might join a meeting once a week or once a month. And it's just not the same as being present and being able to have that, human interaction and human intelligence, which I think a lot of companies are getting further away from, but we're not losing sight of that.
I love that. It is hard when you have a virtual team. You have to be way more intentional about it, and you have to equip them to be way more proactive because they're not naturally going to be bumping into each other, having that face-to-face time and being front of mind. It is hard for a lot of people to do it. And sometimes the best way to do it is have people in the office. So
Right.
you gotta find that right balance. And I like what you said about AI versus HI, artificial intelligence versus human intelligence. And the human intelligence, I'm curious, like when I hear you say that, I've never heard it put quite that way, is the beauty and the power of our human intelligence is in our human connectivity. Like me alone in my office, I'm probably going to get whipped by AI every day. But if I'm brainstorming with you, or we're having an interview, or you've got 3 or 4 of your top creative company minds around a problem, I think that's when we can take down the machine. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot going on with nonverbals, with the way that we use when we're talking, we're using our hands, and we can pick up on cues that AI would not be able to pick up on. I think we'll know kind of where you're going with something, where AI might be like, okay, I think I'm going to fill in the blank, and he's going this way when that was not the way you were going. So I think there is a need for AI. I think it can perform a lot of tasks for us and help us with a lot of day-to-day things, but I don't think it'll ever replace the human intelligence that we have and the bonding that we can have when having a conversation like this. So for instance, right now, if we weren't having this conversation and you just had my AI bot send you a bunch of stuff, I'm sure it wouldn't have come out this way, because nothing I do is planned. Even with my DJ sets, I never pick out all the songs ahead of time. I'll just start with one song and go, I know a song that sounds good, and I just kind of build off of that like we're doing here.
That was my next question. So music is dramatically being impacted by AI, including, and this is a major tangent we don't have to go down, but we know AI is able to take voices and create songs that the artists were never involved in initially. And I'm not passing judgment on all that stuff. It's just it's happening. And now we have like Spotify there's like a war with Spotify who's trying to curate everyone's music and put espresso on everybody's song list and things like that. How are you experiencing all this as a DJ?
So as a DJ, I pick a song I like and I mix the next song into it. And I just try to keep the flow going, and I try to get people dancing and having a good time. So I'm not as concerned about the actual song and like who made it or who remixed it or where it came from. Although I do feel as though it isn't good for the people that spent all the time to make these songs to have somebody come in and just use a different voice and then be able to use it, to profit. So I'm not really in agreement with that. But for me, I'm not making any of the tracks. I'm just playing them and mixing one into the next. So I am actually making sort of a mashup on the fly with 2 songs, sometimes even 3 or 4 songs all at one time, coming together as like an orchestra. But I'm not actually manufacturing any of those songs.
What do you think about the Spotify DJ?
I've tried it a couple of times. I feel like at first, he started playing country, and I don't listen to a lot of country. And I go, okay, well, you must be playing songs that my wife played on that Spotify. So it took a while for him to kind of figure out what I liked. And I don't know, I kind of got frustrated with it. So I actually like to make my own mixes, and then I'll replay those later. And then instead of listening to Spotify or the radio or anything else, Sirius XM, I'll just jump on and start making my own mix at anytime I need. So
I gotta believe for your employees, it's special to know that your CEO is handcrafting a playlist. And I think when people understand, at first I thought the Spotify DJ was kind of cool, but I'm like, you know what? I like the feeling of knowing that someone is specifically choosing this, not based on a logarithm, but based on what they think, and that they're trying to offer me really a gift, not just, just a logarithm.
yeah,
So we're bouncing all over here, but I got to ask you, you've got a very active foundation.
yes,
And it's always shocking for me sometimes to hear this when someone who's so busy, you're like, man, I'm going to start a whole nother project. And this thing's out there making a big impact. So maybe give us a snapshot of what your vision is. And honestly, why, when you're running a business, why has this become important to have a foundation?
right. So for several years, right around Christmas time, I would order a bunch of gifts and they get delivered here to the office. And we'd get them all staged at the front of the office, and we'd have Metropolitan Ministries come by and pick up all these toys and then deliver them to the kids. And I was telling my COO, CFO, Roddy Premsuk, that I would like to do more as far as being able to see the impact and see the kids' faces, or know that these gifts went to the kids that they were supposed to. Not that I questioned Metropolitan Ministry, they're a great operation. I just wanted to be able to be more involved in seeing the look on their faces. So he said, well, why don't you start a foundation? And if you do that, then you could throw a kid's Christmas party and we could have all these gifts there and you could give them to them and see them open it. And we can, have a cool party. I said, let's do that. So in 2022, we started the Nursey Foundation. And we decided we were going to throw a big party at the end of 2022 for about 500 foster kids. So we put together this big party. We actually went out and ordered all these gifts from Amazon. They actually got to pick out the gifts they wanted, which was a logistical nightmare, but it worked. And
500. I'm imagining
each kid picked all these different things. We gave them like $100 per budget. So we had all these gifts and we handed all these gifts to them. We had a big party and we had 10-foot LED dancing robots, and I DJ'd, and it was pretty incredible. It was a lot of fun. The kids were ecstatic about it. And then we decided to do that every year. So that was the first year we did it. We did it the next year at Raymond James Stadium where the Bucks play. And then this will be our third year doing it. And, we said, okay, that's one of the things that we want to do to give back to the Tampa Bay area, is throw some parties for kids that typically would not have been able to have a party like that. But what else can we do? So then we decided, instead of just focusing on one cause, that we were going to pick 5 different causes, and we were going to work with other nonprofits that already exist in the Tampa Bay area, and we're going to try to help them grow. We start out by giving money away, and they'd come back a couple months later and say, hey, I need some more money. We'd say, what'd you do with the first 10 grand we gave you? And they'd say, oh, well, I spent it on this, that, and the other. And we say, let's sit down and let's come up with a plan, so that way you don't burn through this cash so quickly. So now our main mission is to work with all of the nonprofit, not all of them, but as many as we can in the Tampa Bay area. And we sit down and do a strategic plan. And then once that plan's locked in, we also give them injection of cash to ensure that plan is successful. So the impact we're making is, if you have a nonprofit that's already doing pretty well, and let's say they're helping 500 people a month eat that would normally have not been able to eat, we try to get that number up to like 2,000. So now we've quadrupled the impact with that one nonprofit.
Wow. So a couple of ways I'm thinking about this. One is, so the first lesson I'm hearing is about writing the check, which as a charitable donation, like a tax deduction, people know about this, versus getting more involved with the people element. And like you say, seeing the smiles, finding that there's like a significant return you get on being involved that way that you're never going to get from just writing a check.
Right.
Secondly, this idea of taking your knowledge as a business leader over your 28 years and shaping it in a way that you can accelerate other nonprofits in the community, because that's going to help your dollars go infinitely further than just writing the check and not necessarily giving the guidance along with it. And that's cool that you guys sit down and give them a strategic plan. How much time does that take to help a nonprofit with a with a strategic plan?
It takes a lot of time. We actually have four board members, and then we also have three team members that work for us. So there's 7 people in the organization now, and we're continuing to grow. And these people are just incredible in the way that they can break down information and present it and come up with a strategic plan. And so one that we just recently did, we sat down for 6 hours and learned everything we needed to learn about this organization. Then we spent about a month going through and building out this package that's about 90 pages of a strategic plan. And then we spent 3 hours giving them the plan and telling them how it's going to work and making sure that we're not telling them this is how you're going to run your business. We're just basically showing them a path and giving them some suggestions, and they can decide to move forward with it or not. And then we also gave them a huge injection of cash. So
Wow.
I think there's a lot of altruistic people. I think people really want to do good, but some people start a nonprofit and they don't really understand much about business. All they know is about they got a big heart and they want to help. Then they wind up burning through cash and they can't fundraise. And the next thing you know, they're out of business and they never got a chance to really help people. So we're trying to fix that.
Yeah, I love that. It's that saying of teaching someone to fish versus giving them the fish.
Right.
And what a great impact I'm sure you're having in the community, but we're probably not going to know the real impact for another multiple years down the road when those nonprofits sort of shape their future differently.
Right.
And so it sounds like it's sort of like a domino where you're like the first domino is having a business plan for your nonprofit. So when you receive the cash, you can put it in the right places to grow.
Absolutely. What's really cool also is that my wife is the CEO and one of the board members. So her office is right next to mine here so we have direct components in the Nursey Foundation, all in the same 20,000 square foot building. So it's nice to be able to see her every day and work alongside of her. So it's really a special.
Yeah, creating the business you want to be part of. And it gives you something to talk about over dinner other than just component. Not that direct components are not interesting, but it's probably a little bit more fun to be like, yeah, we have this nonprofit and they're doing all this good in the world. And,
Yeah, I think I love talking about components. I've actually coined a phrase called chippies. So instead of Chinese, like a language of speaking chips, because a lot of people don't speak that language. But when you do, it's like, wait, part numbers? And I can sit there for 2 hours having a conversation with someone about it because we know so much about the electronic component business. And other people are like, what language you guys speaking?
The language of chippies, the coming to your middle school and your high school.
Yep.
Yeah. Aaron will be rolling out the first chippies course. Aaron, what a very fun interview. But I think I love digging into these industries like yours, where you're adding so much value in ways that people aren't. It's kind of opening their eyes to this. And I love the idea of bringing your own personal interests to work and infusing your strengths in different ways. And the DJing is like, you're probably into music. You love sharing your music and you're doing it in a very personal way with your employees. And I think that's a great way to be in the world. And then, you're kind of taking your business show on the road a little bit with your foundation and helping accelerate results in the community. What's your parting thought for our listeners?
Well, I'll just say that I've always followed these core values. I think they're extremely important, and it's gotten me very far in business. And we have a high level of integrity and doing the right thing and ensuring that this business runs smooth. I care about people. I care about my employees. And every day I wake up and try to do anything and everything I can to make sure that they're successful, because I know if they're successful, I'll be successful. So we all are able to join in on that success. And I just say, you want to have a good time in life too. If you can find something you really enjoy doing, you don't have to work a day in your life. And this isn't work to me. I just come in and, buy parts, sell parts, DJ, help people. It's fantastic.
And speak your chippies language.
That's it.
There you go. All right, Aaron, thanks for coming on, my friend.
All right, man. Nice meeting you. Take care.